So, Norma, it is fantastic to see you again. Here we are, post-Inman, New York. And I know that you Northerners are used to that kind of cold, but for us Southern folks, 4 degrees is a bit much. So we're
Negative 18, Mark. Come on.
oh, sorry. I didn't mean to overshoot it by that much. Okay, you're negative. At least they were still positive, right? Okay. No, but it was a very interesting conference. I wish you could have been there and really got to see it. I seem to want to start in this sense, almost without exception. In fact, I was on another webinar with Wayne here. What was that, last week? I guess something like that, and he kind of confirmed what I had suspected, which was every conversation that I was involved with, or happened to be walking by and catch little snippets of whatever people are talking about at the moment, really only involved two subjects: AI and consolidation. That's it.
It's
Almost nothing.
fascinating how it's overtaken the conversation. I agree.
Yeah.
And the consolidation conversation is sort of like post Compass Anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
What you and I talked about in our last session was
Yeah.
everybody needs to get bigger. That's their view. They need to get bigger or they need to get out. And
Right.
AI is crazy, Mark. The stuff that you and I are able
Oh.
to do with AI now that would have taken us a team of marketing and sales
Mm-hmm.
professionals a month, we can
Yeah.
do in about 3 hours. Like
Yeah.
it's bonkers.
Well, I heard one, strangely enough, yesterday. A company, I won't divulge which one, but they have an AI generated something that they're building or have built. I don't understand AI enough to understand how all this stuff is done. But if your phone is left on and you go, say, visit a house somewhere, right? For a showing, something like that. And your what was it? Your geo syncing, or what's the one where it'll track where you're at, right? For your GPS and all
Yeah.
that. If that is left on, they can capture that signal, backtrace it, and find out everything about you, and then start sending you advertisements based on the home you saw and all the data. It's insane.
Well,
You know.
and that piece of it is so Big Brotherish. It's
Oh, it's horrible.
very right. It sort of brings up the hackles
Yeah.
of Americans and Canadians. Like,
Oh, yeah.
stop watching what I'm doing. It's that whole paranoia about, is my phone listening to me? Because you and I'll be chatting about something, and the next thing sleep aids are
Oh,
coming
yeah.
onto the phone, and
Yeah.
you're thinking, well, wait a minute, we were just discussing
Mhm.
mattresses, and now I'm getting ads for it. It's
Yeah.
a little concerning. What
Oh, it
I
is.
find really interesting about it is I think it's changing the accounting world,
Mhm.
the legal world,
Yeah.
the marketing and sales world,
Yeah.
think of the money that any company who wants to establish a brand presence previously had to spend in
Sure.
order to get the SEO ranking, to word things right, to put together their photos, videos, text. And now that has become so much easier with AI
Sure.
that I heard somebody say it's not that AI is going to take over, it's that people who know how to use AI are going to take over.
Right. Right.
You sort of see that, right? You
Yeah.
see that as people's ability to use AI, real estate agents in their marketing, in their sales campaigns, in their advertising a house campaigns, in their lead generation,
Right.
those agents are going to surpass the ones who are still working
Mhm.
off the notebook
Right.
and the Rolodex to some extent. You and I
Right.
both know relationships are key in this business,
Sure.
right? Like,
Right.
you and I have a
Yes.
relationship, we do business together, we like each other.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
never going to
Don't
go
hang
away.
on. You might be exaggerating that just a
Okay,
little
you
bit.
like Wayne, you don't
I
like me
like
as much.
you. Maybe I like Wayne. Yeah, yeah. We'll probably check the reverse of that sometime later. So,
But it's that relationship piece I don't
yeah,
think will ever go away.
yeah,
But the enhancement that AI
yeah,
allows someone who knows how to use it to create that competitive advantage is mind-boggling.
yeah. Well, I'll even take that slightly one step further, which is this: it's not even an individual agent. It's going to be which brand or which brokerage has the most accessibility to AI. What are we calling it? An AI platform. Within
Yeah.
that, you could literally make the argument that an entire brand pick one, it doesn't really matter which one, could be gone in 5 years if they're not embracing AI right now, because the rest of the brands who are can just simply, overwhelm the system with what their AI can do. So this isn't even an individual level. This is an entire industry level.
Right. You're talking existential. You're talking
absolutely.
like the ability of a company to grow and survive and thrive is going to be dependent on their ability to leverage AI.
Absolutely.
Brave new world. I don't know if it's brave. It's a crazy new world.
Yeah, it's scary as all hell is what it is.
It is. And what's also nuts is every single month or two, there's a new iteration of Chat GPT or Claude or Perplexity or Gemini. Like they just keep expanding the capabilities of the AI platforms. So what you and I again would take a month to do, 10 hours to do, you can now have AI do for you inside of an hour sometimes, and it looks better than what we would have done.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because I was writing a report here not long ago. I was doing this for somebody else, and so the first time I wrote it all out and then I put it in Chat GPT and I said, okay, just clean this up for me. And so then I did that once or twice, and then I would just throw in like snippets of ideas, and it would just start writing an entire page, and it sounded exactly like in my head what I know I would have written. So by the time I got to the 5th or 6th iteration of it, it was like, screw it, I'll just throw half a dozen bullet points in the thing, and 2 seconds later it spits out a 2-page report or something like that.
You're so right. Writing is another industry under threat from AI because with all the sources it pulls from, once it gets to know, as you said, your voice and your tone and how you like to sort of, propose things and approach things, it's crazy how it customizes to your voice. And what I find as well is sometimes I'll struggle with an email, right? So I'll be sending an email to someone, and I like to write. I enjoy, you do too. I enjoy communication, right?
Right.
But you realize that when you finish doing your best and you give it to Claude and say, can you make this better? Inevitably, they add things that make it better. Now, I find I always want to go through and make sure it's in my voice.
Sure.
Because sometimes you'll get like a funny tone and you'll be thinking that doesn't sound at all like me. But no, it's amazing how much of a time saver it is. And what's also interesting is the stuff I used to have a clerk do, AI now does.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right?
It's crazy. No, I mean, I said this to a buddy of mine. I was trying to plan a vacation, so I just went on Chat GPT and said, okay, here I got 10 days. I'm going to do this, yada yada yada. Find me the right restaurants. And I just outlined the parameters, and it literally created the perfect vacation for me. And then it goes, and if you insert your credit card number, I can go ahead and book all the hotels and restaurants and airlines. And I'm like, oh, we went one step too far.
That's the big brother piece, right? Like, no, I don't want you having my Amex. I'm good.
Yeah, no, exactly. There has to be limitations. And I always sound like Christopher Walken in my head. So as long as it flows like that, I'm good. So
I'm thinking Spock, Mark.
There you go.
More like, here we go.
Yeah, something like that. Well, let's get to the other half of New York, which is obviously what you and I do for a living, consolidation part of it. I mean, setting aside, I think, I tell you what, I'm going to do one other thing before we get the consolidation is the CEO, this was universal. Everybody I talked to, the CEO meeting, that breakfast meeting that they always do. What is that, the 3rd day, I think it is, something like that. That was the most uncomfortable meeting I've ever heard. Did you hear about
conflict, the tension, the fighting, and as you know, the underlying litigation that's going on? It's what a horrible environment.
Yeah. To be fair, I won't blame, Inman itself. This is something they've been doing for every year for years.
I give them credit.
To bring all those CEOs together. But this year was, holy crap, those CEOs were not playing nice this year. And
no, very tense, very acrimonious. And it speaks to the fundamental disagreements that sort of underpin the industry right now. You and I touched on it a little bit in our last chat, but the litigation is horrific. It is, there's an expression that the worst settlement is better than the best judgment, right?
Yeah.
get, as you said before, get the egos together
Yeah.
and just figure out a win-win solution going forward. That's what you and I do every single day
Right.
of our lives for our
Exactly.
clients.
Right.
At that level, it just begs for
Yeah.
that type of conversation. It'll be a difficult conversation, but it's like park the egos at the door
Yeah.
and just figure out what's best for you guys in the industry going forward and come up with a plan. Because if they do, the benefit is far greater than the fighting that's going on right
Right.
now.
I agree. Yeah. I'll tell you, it's, as I have said repeatedly, the only people that win these are the lawyers,
And what's bad, Mark, is the justice system takes
years.
3, 4, 5 years to make a decision. And during that time, you've got all that uncertainty, which speaks to another item you and I talked about before we started recording is the volume of transactions.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
if you're going to create uncertainty in the market, then you're going to suffer with
Right.
a lack of transactions because purchasers don't have the confidence
Right.
to go ahead.
Yeah, we already have a severe lack of purchasing across the spectrum, Canada, US, bunch of other markets, UK, and all that stuff. And for the last 2 years, in my opinion, 2026 isn't looking too much better. You might get a slight uptick, but it's not going to be huge. And then you're now really into 2027, before
Yeah,
any real.
which is 3 full years. Like
Yeah.
that's 3 full years where brokerages have to survive
Yeah.
without that transaction volume. You and I both know a bunch of our clients shifted from monthly fees to like transaction only
Right.
fees.
Right.
All of a sudden, they just don't have the volume of transactions to actually make any
Yep.
money. It's
Yeah.
it's
Well,
tough.
and to even go one step further, I mean, how many of the clients over the years have we talked to? And the first question is, do you have any ancillary services you can rely on? Because at least there's money to be made. No, there's different
Yeah.
streams of income. And how
Yeah.
many of them said, "Oh yeah, we've thought about doing JVs, or maybe we've thought about doing this, doing that." I was like, guess what, guys? Uh, I wish you would have listened to us 5 years ago, because that could make a difference for you. And
I, it's
uh,
it's such a wise comment because if so, you've seen this and I've seen this, the savviest operators view the real estate brokerage almost as a break-even proposition
sure,
because they can funnel that client to the title, to the relocation, to the insurance, to
right,
the mortgage, right? It's like this whole as you say, group of ancillary services or corollaries that
right,
are way more lucrative than
right,
the actual fees being received on the sale or purchase or lease. And
exactly,
so that suite of services, we talked about it before, you look at a Hobie Hanna or a
yeah,
Weichert, like
yeah,
that's how they continue to survive in this marketplace is
yeah,
they've got these diversified group of services that one customer of theirs from the brokerage takes full advantage of.
yeah.
And
No,
that the ancillaries make the money even if the brokerage doesn't.
right, exactly. Well, and using Hobie as the example, and certainly Jim and all those guys. I mean, look, they're you could make the argument they're thriving right now. I mean, thriving might be a relative term, but at the very minimum, they are holding steady or accelerating their
Yeah,
business, which in this market is about as good as it's going to get. You know,
absolutely. The other
and they're
thing that I'm
poised to go way better than that in the next
yes,
2 years.
that's the ideal, right? The ideal is to continue to grow in the face of those adverse winds that are
Right,
coming at them. But I agree
right.
with you. Like you look at Weichert, they're pretty much, I think they're debt free.
Yeah.
And so as long as they're cash flow positive,
Hmm.
you chat with their CEO, as long as they're cash flow positive, life is good.
Yeah.
They just continue to truck along. Whereas
Yeah.
what I'm seeing a lot of pressure on, and you may be as well, is people who during COVID took advantage of those
Yeah.
SBLs and COVID loans and all of that
Hmm.
and levered up.
Yep.
We've got a couple right now that are just having such difficulty because when you value their brokerage, it just pays the loans.
Yeah.
Like, and sometimes doesn't.
Right.
That's a tough situation.
Oh, tell me about it. I mean, I think we've spoken about this before, but even in the last few weeks, I've had to inform brokers that, I can't sell you. You're literally not worth any money. The best I can do is take you out of the position you're in, move you into a different position where you're not continuing to dig the hole.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
I hate those conversations. I genuinely do. but sometimes the truth just has to be said.
Well,
You
and
know,
Mark, the problem with that situation, unlike a Weichert, where every month is cash flow positive, so time is their friend,
right?
with a broker who has debt that they can't service and they're pulling into their personal finances every month, time is their enemy.
Oh,
Like you've
absolutely.
got to do something and you've got to do something quickly because we've had a couple of brokerages over the last 3 years that have had to just declare bankruptcy, like
Yep.
personally or the company,
Yep.
because they can't afford to keep servicing the debt that they took
Exactly.
on during COVID, which is so tragic because
Right.
entrepreneurs work their butts off to
Yeah.
create a company and they spend weekends and evenings and to put their life into it, and it's
Yeah.
just so disheartening when they have to let it go in that circumstance. So you're right, you have to be blunt
Yeah.
when someone like that comes to you and says, Mark, how do you help me? You're like, listen, you got to get rid of your expenses.
Right.
Like, even if it means you don't get any money up front, but you're getting money each month for the next
Right.
3 years, well, you got to offload those expenses
Yeah.
because they're gonna bury you.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. No, actually, that ties in nicely. I don't know if you saw a paper that we released. Oh, that would have been, I guess, a week or so now, something like
I
that.
I loved it. I
Well, hang on.
remember you gave
I
me
got two of them, by the way. So I got to make sure I know which one. No,
okay.
so Julia, our CMO released an absolutely fabulous white paper on why representation matters in when you're doing M&A. Now she wrote it as sort of a generic piece. It wasn't necessarily REMA specific because obviously there are some other players in here. And I made a similar comment, I think, when I was in New York on stage, which was, look, if REMA is not your cup of tea, fine. I would at least like the opportunity to talk to you. But for the love of God, I don't care what position you're in your business. If you're dirt poor, if you're making money, you want to just age out, whatever that spectrum looks like, man, you got to have some representation because sometimes as hard, look, if a broker, let's just play this out. If a broker is dirt broke, they're dumping all their cash into just to keep afloat, and they just don't even know, they can't even talk to anybody about it. You know how those situations go.
Yeah.
Talking to a company like REMA, like Broker, like some of the
Yeah.
others that exist, it may be not a fun conversation, but
Yeah.
that is still way better than continuing to live and keep digging that hole endlessly.
Yes.
And
The ostrich routine
yeah,
inevitably ends in ruin, right?
right.
Because as you and I've just said, we don't. I'd love to say that we're going to do 4.5-5 million units this year in America, and a proportionate amount in Canada, but. I'm not confident making that prediction. You're not confident making
No.
that prediction. It might be another really difficult
Yeah.
2026.
Right.
And if that's the case, and you're already writing checks every month, it gets worse. It doesn't get better.
Yeah.
So the conversation and the representation. So I was talking about your other white paper, which
I
we'll
know
talk
you
about
were.
in a minute. But
We'll get to
the
that one.
representation piece is what I find amazing is real estate brokers know so well that for sale by owner is a bad way to sell a house.
Yep.
But yet when they look to sell or do something, if they're in crisis or they need advice on their business, it's like they think they can do it themselves. And you say to yourself, but even if you just reach out to you or to me or to Wayne or to Tyrone or to Steve or to Scott for advice,
Yeah.
great. Like we've got all sorts of experience dealing with every problem you're going to bring to us.
Right.
And so
Right.
even if it's just to say, Mark, what do you think about this? This is what I'm dealing with. This is the situation. How do you see me moving forward? You're
Right.
going to give them advice without
Right.
charging them a dime because you've seen it before. So it's like,
Exactly.
this is what I think you should do.
Yeah.
And that's such a comfort when you're drowning.
Yeah.
So I haven't read that white paper, Mark, but I have no doubt that I would enjoy it.
Well, for everyone listening to this, go to our LinkedIn page and download it. And that includes you, Norma. You got to go.
I will. I will definitely, because again, it's that whole thing about don't do for sale by owner. So I put out a postcard yesterday in my LinkedIn that talked about confidentiality. And you and I've talked about this before, but
many times.
The example I gave was a broker's at a conference. He's talking to trusted colleagues from the last 30 years and just mentions that he wants to, he's thinking of selling. And you and I both know the end to that story. Look, all of a sudden, his top 3 agents are being recruited.
Yep.
a customer that was going to list with him says, "Oh, I think he's on the way out. I'm going to go somewhere else."
Right.
Like there's this ripple effect
Yep.
because you didn't run a process with you or with me or with whomever with the confidentiality built in.
Right.
It's so fragile.
Yeah. And look, it's an interesting topic in some sense because, obviously we're under everybody that, we deal with, everyone you deal with. I mean, we all know NDAs fly left and right, blah, blah, blah. But again, having that middle person, having that that someone who's stuffed between this and all of this out here is invaluable to the total process, but also your own security, your own well-being, the insanity that this industry is both M&A and real estate. Yay, we got a twofer on that one. I never can explain why a broker would FSBO a company.
Yeah.
And yet there is no version where they would say to a homeowner, "Oh yeah, just sell your house on your own. It's all fine." Wait, what?
Never.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the thing is, you obviously enjoy what you do. I obviously enjoy what I do. You're helping brokers realize benefit from what they've grown over decades. It's very fulfilling. It makes you so sad when you see a broker like the guy at the conference where he lets the message get away from him, and all of a sudden his business is irrevocably diminished or destroyed because of that conversation.
Right. Oh, exactly.
Yeah. Now let's talk about your other white paper.
The other white paper. I knew that was coming.
I loved that. I told you needed to publish that thing. It's provocative because it looks at the different models, and over the last couple of decades, there have been all sorts of debate about what model's going to reign and what's going to take over. And there's all these disruptors, and the industry's going to fundamentally change. And yes, it's changed in the last 2 decades, but not fundamentally from a homeowner hiring an agent to sell their house perspective.
Right.
Your white paper was provocative in that it suggested some changes might be afoot.
Well, I am confident enough that I put my name on it, which, usually I'd throw Julie on and throw her under the bus if it was way wrong. But,
poor Julie.
But it's an interesting idea, and we could talk about this all day, but I'll blow through all that and just get to the meat and taters of it. But the honest truth is, and this sort of goes back to our AI conversation earlier, which is the white paper is dedicated to the idea or the premise that the future of real estate will be data-driven, not relationship-driven. In other words, the people who can
wait a second, that is a fundamental concept.
Right. It takes the entire industry itself and flips it on its head, because since roughly the 1950s, it's only been relationship-driven.
Yeah.
So what that means is the companies that can control the data and the scale, and those are the two primary factors, the companies that can control those two pieces of what do we call it? Not information, but those two pieces.
Yeah.
Who
own that? Who own that?
Right. And in my opinion, have already started to change how the relationship between agents and the brokerages are measured. So again, it's an 8-page white paper, so it's not easy to put into a simple term like this. But if you assume that it's data driven, you can have your entire process where there's only 2 points in which an actual person needs to help the particular home buyer, and that's both times is when the home buyer needs to enter the home and then leave again. Because again, in the U.S., there's a lot of state laws that somebody could walk in and say, "Okay, well, thanks for letting me in. I'm just going to stay here for a while," and they could literally live there for years. And
which is completely crap.
Yeah, insane. But okay, now there's only 2 points. So if the data itself can show the potential homeowners all the homes, 3D animations, what it would look like with your furniture. I mean, this is all AI stuff, man. I mean, it's coming, whether we all want to admit it or not. My wife does a thing with ChatGPT where she can take a picture of a room and say, "Okay, I want you to redecorate the whole room based on red colors and a leather couch instead of a cloth couch," and it'll just blank out the room and put a brand new one in there, right? I mean, you could do that kind of stuff, and it's getting better by the day. Okay, so the point in all that is, from a brand point of view, and I used one of the larger brands, I actually got their numbers, they're publicly traded, so it's a little, I wanted to make this as realistic as possible. And what you find out very quickly is going from, say, a split model where it's relationship driven between an agent and the customer, and going and moving that over to data, you very rapidly go from, let's say, a profit margin of around 10 or 11 or 12% to 40 or 50. And if you expand that out, you can 10x or something like that, 9x your total profit within a very short amount of period of time. Now, what does that mean for the industry? It's quite simple. You need far fewer agents to handle all that, which is not good in some sense. And you need to invest a heavy amount of money and time and energy and resources into getting the, I'll call it the URL AI combo set up correctly. But if you can do it, and you can do it correctly, and you can change customer behavior, the world is your oyster, type of thing.
Well, and as I say, it's the type of paper that's very provocative, because then you look in the context of the litigation that's going on right now.
Yep.
And you go, okay, are the CEOs of the companies that are suing each other trying to do exactly that? Are they trying to
Yes,
control the data? And all of a sudden, that whole monopoly conversation comes into play, and anti-competitiveness, and all of the knock-on effects to what we're talking about. So I loved that you published it. I think it's I enjoyed reading it. It makes you think. It definitely makes you think, and it's not going to roll out exactly as you predict, because nothing ever does. But it makes you think about who controls the information, who controls the customer. How is the industry going to evolve over the next 10 years with AI? Those are all really important questions for anyone who's planning their business over the next decade. And that's all. I think that's also a reason, Mark, that so many of the older brokers, 60s, 70s, 80s, as you and I've said, we have a couple in our 90s, which is amazing. What they're going to do, because do they want to relearn the AI piece? Do they want to learn how to compete in what's coming over the next couple of years? And if they don't, to your point, it's an existential threat. It's probably time to look to sell, because you can still get a really good buck for a well-run brokerage, because everybody's seeking scale.
Exactly. And ironically, and that's the exact what I was going to probably head towards next, which is, look, the age out process notwithstanding, because again, to your point, there are a fair number of brokers. I mean, more than half at this point of the brokerages are owned by people who are well into their retirement years. So we'll say 65 plus, something like that here in the States. Okay.
Which let me interrupt. I love that about them. And so do you, because they're entrepreneurs. Like this is what they do. This is what makes them get up in the morning. This is what, energizes them. And so you and I talked before about how do we keep that energy going without the burden?
Yeah. But that means they're going to spend the next 10 or 15 years trying to relearn the entire industry that has not moved a single whit in, probably since 55, 58, something like that, when what we would now call the modern real estate age really kind of settled itself, and what we see today is a reflection of that. It was time for this industry to change. It had to happen. I'm not sure that all of these pieces hitting it at the same time was necessarily beneficial for it.
It's daunting.
It's daunting. Yeah. That's a good way to say it. Very delicately worded. I like it.
Yeah, but it's true. It's daunting. No, if you and I are, if we're helping a real estate broker who's run a business for 30 years, it's daunting for them to think about learning AI, re-engineering their relationship to customers, to agents, to the world in general, dealing with all the different platforms, dealing with the lead generation engines. It's daunting. You have to learn stuff that's going to hurt your head. I always tease that, you and I stay young, Mark, by hurting our head every day or two, where you're trying to learn something that just doesn't come naturally. It's not intuitive. Yeah. And a lot of the tools we're seeing on the market right now are exactly that. They're not intuitive. So you have to, I used Hey Jen a month ago, Hey Jen, which generates AI videos. I hated it. I absolutely hated it, but I used it. I figured out how to use it. took me 3 hours, and I thought my head it hurts.
Yeah.
But I think it's important. But to our conversation, will a brokerage owner who's run their business successfully for 30 years, do they want to do that?
Right.
Do they want to learn those tools? Do they want to hire people who learn those tools? Do they want to transform their business? And if they don't, it's a perfect time to say, okay, you know what? It's time for me to exit and keep selling, or exit and keep managing, or exit and stay involved in the business a couple of days a week, because they need the energy kick of being, important and productive and useful, but they don't need the burden of having to make those decisions about AI and strategy and where the industry's going.
Well, and I'll even toss maybe a slightly different version of that out, which is there's also nothing wrong with saying, you know what, I've gone as far as I can. I'm going to get out with a little bit of money. I'm going to go hang with my wife or my husband or my grandkids.
And just enjoy life.
I just want to enjoy life. That's okay too.
Yes.
It's like, I get it. We've got a guy right now who's early 80s, and he has bounced between I'm going to grow the business to I'm going to retire. And it's like, dude, your girlfriend is 67 years old. Go spend some time with her.
Yes. Yes, but is it but the entrepreneurial spirit impresses the heck out of me.
Absolutely.
Yes. It is so, and I think that's why I love the industry so much, is it's full of entrepreneurs. It's full of people who, against the odds, have built these companies that have succeeded. And to your point, at some point, maybe 84s, when you do it, you may want to stop and smell the roses a bit.
They force pilots to retire at certain ages because they're worried about heart attacks in the air or something. Maybe we should have a new thing for brokers too. It's like, okay, at 85, you're just done. That's it. You're forced to retire. The NAR has a new rule, so.
But you know what's wild about that, and I'm sure you've seen it as well? I have brokers who started in their 50s. And that is amazing to me. They go through a whole first career, they retire, and then they start a real estate brokerage. Like, God bless them. That is amazing.
Yeah, it's, as I like to say, it's either sheer genius or sheer stupidity, but one way or another, and it's amazing how close those two are related to each other. So I'm a living example of that. So
I was just going to say, you're the perfect poster boy for that.
That's right.
What I've found as well, we talked about this before we started recording. The last week and a half mark, I'm feeling this momentum shift. I don't know if you've found this as well, but January was so let me back up. January was bloody cold if you don't live in Florida. And even in Florida, you were complaining.
We were cold, yeah.
It was cold. And so it sort of puts a deep freeze into deals. Even though people say it doesn't, it sort of does, right? Because it's, we're a weather conscious society. So January, I found I was steady, but I wasn't, first half of February, still really cold first week or so. And then all of a sudden, when the weather in Canada started to heat up, we've got some clients as well in the northern states started to heat up a little bit. When I say heat up, Mark, you'd still be freezing. You'd be in your snowmobile suit and helmet going, Norma, get me out of here. But you start to get that weather effect. All of a sudden, there's a whole bunch of things going on. There's just all sorts of people looking to sell and to buy and to value and to succession plan and to all the things you and I do. Is, I don't know, it's become really busy.
What I said in New York when I was there, and this is still true to this day, we are 19 days into February, and we do a considerable business.
You do a considerable business, my man.
Considerable business, right? We have had more deals in our system, let's call it, in the first 49 days of 2026 than I would typically see in an entire year.
That's bonkers.
It's bonkers.
Bonkers.
Yeah. So if this trend is to continue the way it does,
you're not going to have any vacation at all. You're going to tell your wife,
"Had a vacation in 10 years. Are you
I'm buried."
My wife gave up on that a long time ago. I always have a phone attached to me somewhere. But anyway, if that were to continue, I think we could do more than 100 deals this year, which would be,
incredible.
It'd be incredible. The industry is just transforming in a lot of, and It's not good or bad. It's just a reflection of the change that is happening.
Well, it's a reflection of what we talked about. It's a reflection of the low transaction environment, the aging out of brokerages, the AI component that you have to master if you're going to stay at the game,
Right.
and the cash flow issues that a lot of business owners are experiencing right now across the board.
Oh yeah.
My folks are down in your state enjoying a shot of sunshine, and they told me that your grocery costs are nuts.
Oh, are they? I don't know.
Yes.
What is nuts low or nuts high? I'm just curious.
Nuts high.
Really?
So Canada.
Well,
Canada
Florida's
seems
always
very,
had kind of a weird thing. So, okay, so meat is stupidly expensive. It always has, because we have to import the lion's share of our meat. We don't have a lot of grazing farms.
No, you don't have
and we do in
farmers.
the center. But the vegetables, like fruits and veggies, are by and large very inexpensive down here. So I don't know. Maybe and again, I don't know what you all pay in Canada. So maybe it's just I've become so used to it in my daily life. I don't even think about it anymore. But I don't know. Like, you can go get oranges for pennies on the dollar, type of thing.
Yeah,
but
well, oranges in Florida go together.
Yeah.
That is an image.
Go to Plant City. They got a billion acres worth of, strawberries and fruits and veggies and fruits I'd never even heard of till I moved down here and, 10 or so years ago. I was like, what the hell is a dragon fruit? They're really good.
Actually, I pride on exposing my kids to most food, and that is one they have not tried yet. So
and do you know there's three, and we're going to get spin off topic here completely, but there's three different kinds of dragon fruit. So there's the white meat, there's a
I think that's what we lead with.
Yellow. Yeah.
I think that's what we lead with.
Yeah.
With the conversation, we lead with dragon fruit and the types that there are.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So
what else do we want to talk about? What are you predicting for the balance of 2026? You and I had a conversation about volume of units, and I was sitting at about 4 to 4.1. Are you going to take the other side of that? You're going to be at like 4.101 or?
Yeah, I had originally, as we closed out 2025, I was thinking we would probably do a little better than 4.3, 4.4 even. But I also caveated that with it won't be till the back half. But I think based on the transaction volume we've seen already, I'm with you. I'm thinking 4.1, maybe, it might be 4.05, something along those lines. But I don't think it'll crack much higher than that. If for a wide variety of reasons.
I can't have you do the prices right where you're like 4.10001, and if it goes above, then
you gotta buy me a steak dinner. Is that what it is? Okay.
We need Bob Barker.
I need Bob Barker. Yeah, or
over the under.
Yeah, over or under on that one. That'd be perfect. No, I just think that's where we're at. So I mean,
me too.
I think 2026
and I hope I'm wrong. Right?
Oh, I do too.
You and I hope we're wrong.
Yeah.
But it just, I don't know. It's all that global uncertainty, all the domestic uncertainty. It just doesn't inspire confidence in purchasers buying houses.
No, it doesn't. And unfortunately, to your point, unless something changes radically that I cannot see forecasts coming. I mean, if you just use the barometer that we already have in front of us, we're probably pretty close. So unless something radically changes for the back, 8 months, whatever it is, 10 months, I cannot see a version where we just suddenly have this miraculous breakthrough and we go to 5 or we go to 5.5 or, the COVID days of 6, it's just not going to happen. So.
And the challenge with that is, as a brokerage owner, you have to adjust all your expenses.
Yeah.
You and I've seen a massive, the brokers that are surviving are the ones that are looking at all their expenses as a percentage of margin. And we have, you're seeing this as well, I'm sure. We have all sorts of brokers that are having their spaces and having their occupancy costs and looking at every employee and saying, do I need him? Do I need her? Do I take her to part-time? It's difficult because you have to look at that gross margin that you're bringing in and figure out what you have to pay for all the components you need.
Yeah. Well, Wayne put it beautifully one time, which is it's not about the transactions, it's about how much money's left over when it's all done. And it's all about the profit, man. It's
all about the cash. Yeah. How much cash do you keep? Yeah. Man. And if you and I are right and it's 4 to 4.1 million, not going to be fun, not going to be easy.
Well, this is exciting, man. We've just bummed out everybody listening. We don't mean to, but
I know. I wish, as I said, I hope we're wrong.
Yeah, no, I do
I
too.
hope we're wrong.
Yeah.
But right now, that is my prediction: 4
Yeah.
4 to 4.1.
I think we're pretty much in the same boat on that one. I might dribble it a little higher, 4.1 and some change, but that's as far out on the limb as I'm willing to go. So
Now, are you seeing regional differences?
yeah, yeah. But I mean, the South, strangely, the U.S. South is still holding on all right, to a certain degree. Florida's taken a pretty hard beating over the last, call it 6 months. The prices are dropped, but we had such a high, over those COVID years that was sort of inevitable. I think anyone with, two brain cells rubbed together could have saw that one coming. But some of the other states, Arizona, Texas, I'll even go South Carolina, Georgia, there's Tennessee, they're doing not as radical shifting, maybe let's call it, as some of the other states. The northern states, by and large, have remained flat, and I don't think anything's going to change there, particularly with this winter, because that really put, to your point earlier, that cold weather snap, man, that just flattened the curve completely out. I mean, who wants to go look at a house when you can get frostbite getting from the car over to the front door type of thing? That's
Yeah. No, I think the cold weather definitely put a deep freeze on the market across Canada and the northern states
Oh, absolutely.
for sort of January and the first week of February. So
Yeah.
hopefully, as I'm seeing a significant uptick, hopefully the real estate brokerages in those areas start to see that as the promise of spring. There's a glimmer,
Yeah.
but it's
Well, it will be interesting when those cherry blossoms come out there, and in the DC, New York, all that whole area.
yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if there is an uptick. I suspect what you're going to see is flat, but there could be. We'll see as far as that's concerned. But
I think there's got to be. I don't think it's going to impact the overall 4 to 4.1 million we're talking about, but I think there's got to be a surge as the spring weather hits. There's got to be that, the people who have been thinking about it while they've been freezing in their houses have to get out there and start buying a little bit more in the spring.
No, I agree.
So,
I think you're going to get. I mean, typically, as you know, real estate picks up in the spring and summer no matter what. But if you can get, which by the way could also be a problem, because some of the brokers who maybe are barely been hanging on and been thinking, well, maybe now's my time to get out, might get an overwhelming sense of, okay, we've come out of this. But those dog days of summer, those back half of summer leading into fall, I think it's going to drop right off again. So
one trend I'm seeing a lot of, and you probably are too, is property management.
Yes, a lot of
people love property management as a hedge on the brokerage's cash flow that you and I were just talking about. And I'm seeing a lot of my brokers who are looking to grow. So my buyers saying, I want to buy property management companies. I want to expand into property management. It's becoming a consistent monthly income to help with those with the swells that happen in a brokerage. Are you seeing the same?
Absolutely. I'm amazed how many of our buyers have come to us and said, we want to include property management companies as part of our buyer's product. Or conversely, maybe I even had recently a property management company come to me and say, we'd like to buy more. Can we be one of your buyers type of thing? When I said, yeah, sure. And, it doesn't take long for 10 doors, 20 doors, 100 doors, 200 doors to become some decent, consistent money.
And what are you finding with multiples on those? Because when we put a multiple on a brokerage, I'm finding I'm in and around 3, right? If you make $100,000, it's worth about 300,000.
Right.
The property management though, Mark, I'm finding it's worth more.
It is. So what we've done is we kind of had to reset our valuation tables when it came to that, because and reset it in this sense. To your point, brokerages are relatively easy to value in some sense. But the property management is about how many doors do you have? And then by extension, how many doors based on how many agents, et cetera. So you have to kind of rejigger the way the numbers kind of work themselves. But that was a long way to get to. Yes, what I'm seeing is you can add in maybe another half of a point of X on your multiples.
It's interesting because as it becomes more popular, you and I are getting the requests more often, and as you said, it's still a people business. It's still not a tech company. It's still not going to get 10 times multiple. Like, it's just not. But property management, you start to sort of move up to that
Yeah.
3.5. I did one recently and I used 4, and I was, when you're sort of playing with evaluation and you're like, okay, there's a consistency, there's a
Right.
stability of income. They do it really well. They seem to be growing. And so I
Yeah.
used 4, but I don't know about you, but I always question myself. I always sort
Oh
of go,
yeah.
okay, is somebody going to pay 4? But
Right.
I'm finding in this market, people are willing to pay 4 for that steady cash flow.
Yeah. Well, I had one recently, actually within the last couple weeks, and somebody came to me and said, and he had a very good business. So what he had done is he had the brokerage, he had a property management, and then he had a, a title all attached. He
Brilliant.
kind of loved it, right? So he's got good consistent flow.
Yeah,
But what we discovered relatively quickly was based on the current level of buyer interest, we actually split off his title company and sold it as an individual piece,
that's
and then
smart.
kept
Yeah,
the other two pieces
yeah,
together to get a higher multiple on that,
yeah.
because they were more related. It works. It worked fabulous. He ended up
Yeah, I was going to say
maximizing.
that's smart, because
Yeah,
it's that whole analysis you and I do where, if someone comes to us and says, I want to sell,
right.
you're trying to figure out who's the best strategic buyer, right?
Yes,
Who's going to give you more than just your appraised value, and
right,
who's going to value you more so that they can
right,
create a win-win with you, where maybe there's a position for the seller in the new enterprise. So I think you're
right.
brilliant to have
Yeah,
separated it, because that title company, your strategic buyer, is different
right.
than your brokerage and your
Yeah.
property management
Well,
company.
and then the funny part is we backtracked it so that there was a partnership agreement put on from the new title owner, then partnered up, and then we're going to eventually do a JV after we get everything settled back down, back to the original owner, or back to the original
Which is
brokerage,
perfect,
and
because
so yeah,
titles, like a similar to property management
yeah,
title. So many of your and my brokers get a check at the end of the year
mm-hmm,
from their title investment, which is
yep,
wonderful, because
yeah,
typically you get it December 31st when you're dying from
yeah,
the brokerage point of
yeah,
view, and they get a contribution from the title from the year.
yep,
It's interesting, all those JVs that title is doing. I
oh
find,
yeah,
and the regulations state by state.
mm-hmm,
Whenever we talk to people who are entitled, there's so many different rules depending on which state you're in, and
yep,
who can run it. Do you need an attorney, and what sort of licensing is required? But
yeah,
once you get that set up,
mm-hmm.
it's generally very lucrative.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, some of those title companies, they just print money in the back, man. It's unbelievable how much money those title companies can generate. In here in Florida, it's like the wild, wild west. I mean, I've seen brokerages have pass-through windows to the title company. And in other states, if they even in the same building, the state will come in and pitch a fit. So yeah, to your
Yes.
point, it's all over the place. Having said that, when it's done correctly, boy, is it a lucrative way to, generate more revenue for your business. So.
Yeah. And are you also seeing insurance companies that are sort of aligned with?
Not as much. It seemed like it was really, really popular to include insurance here. Oh, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years ago, but I haven't seen the continuation of that thought process as much. As a matter of fact, I've noted that even some of the bigger brands, for example, have sidelined their insurance. So that seems to be headed a slightly different direction from what I'm seeing.
Well,
We'll
and
see if it makes a reversal.
we consulted to a larger company in America, and they had a huge insurance piece, Mark, and we had to look at it completely differently than the entire rest of the
Yeah.
operation, because that business has a totally different value
Yep.
proposition, totally different
Yep.
multiples based on revenues, based on the number of insurance customers,
Right.
subscribers you have. It again, it hurt my head to look
Yeah.
at.
No, agreed. Agreed. And in fact, to be perfectly fair, I've even pondered the idea of bringing somebody into REMA who is a specialist in just insurance, and sort of, so because I think over the next few years what you're going to see is that insurance goes back to a more separated, entity, and then we're going to have to figure out how to value those companies based on these new paradigms, and
Right,
that's going to be interesting.
especially if your client
Yep.
has all of them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
about relocation? What are you seeing with relocation? I'm seeing what I find really interesting about relocation is it's like a lead generation,
Yeah.
right? It
Sure.
feeds the brokerage.
Right.
And so it's one of those things that if you decouple it from the brokerage, does it have value on its own? Sort of like the referral agencies that
Right,
you and I
right.
see, where retired agents, they park their license and they refer and they get fees.
Yeah.
I'd be interested in your
I
opinions on the two of them.
it's interesting you would ask that. So I view relocation as something akin to 1031s exchanges, type of thing, which I'm sure you know all about those. In the fact that they are this weird little sub niche of the
Yeah.
industry. And from our point of view, they're hard to quantify in a lot of cases. 1031s are a little easier because there's actual physical money and there's, bank accounts and all that good stuff. But that whole little sliver is really, really difficult. And yet, if it's done correctly, can be lucrative. Certainly that's true. But
Right. And do you see it as sort of like the way I look at a referral company
yeah,
is similar to the way I look at a relocation company. Would you
right.
agree with that? Where it's sort of
Yeah,
like it feeds the real estate
right,
brokerage. So it has to sort of be valued together, unless
right.
it's a massive relocation company, which I
Sure.
haven't seen a lot of.
Yeah,
It has to be valued together because without all three together or without the two together, it doesn't
right.
really have value on its own.
Exactly, exactly. And that's, again, 1031s are that way as well. In and of themselves, they're easier in some sense, but in and of themselves, they're difficult to value because the pieces are so intertwined, unlike say a title where you can separate it relatively
Yeah.
easily,
Yeah.
where, it just has a whole, I don't know, that's one of those where we don't see a lot of relocation put into these businesses, or that we've been valuing and helping. So it'll be interesting to see over the next few years again where that sliver goes,
So
type of
so
thing.
we have a couple of them in Texas, which is where I'm seeing them.
Really?
So oil execs, right?
Yeah.
So there's that whole relocation piece where it's a good feeder of business to
Right.
the Texas brokerage.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, no, it's very interesting. Final question on this whole corollary business piece.
Okay.
What are you seeing on mortgages right now?
Oh, mortgage, Lord.
There's like a lot of the models are just unprofitable.
No,
They just
exactly.
don't make any money,
No.
right? Like, so I don't know about you, but I've seen brokerage owners who buy the associated brand mortgage
Yeah.
and try to couple them together, and the mortgage is it's
No.
just sad.
Yeah. No, in fact, in some sense, I think I'm deliberately shying away from even looking at small mortgage companies. I mean, there's certainly the big boys, continue to do what they do, but anybody who's smaller than, I don't know, 100 million a year in total volume there's just no money in it left. I mean, the interest rates aren't working for them. The refis aren't in place right now. Like, nothing in the mortgage space is really panning out right now. And I, again, don't think it much better in the next year.
No, one of my best girlfriends runs a mortgage brokerage, and she told me she's working twice as hard to
Yeah.
make half as much,
Yep. Yeah.
right? And it's difficult because you have a certain expectation. If I do this, I make X, and that business, it's like you have to do double to make half.
Exactly.
So
No, it's tough. I would not want to be in that space right now. Uh,
no, and the private guys, a lot of the private guys that we're looking at have stopped distributions
mhm.
to their investors and to their
Yeah.
stockholders and to their
Yeah.
lenders. That's a tough business, and it that has that knock-on effect to the
Right.
purchasers, where if they can't obtain financing, they can't go
Yeah.
in. The other
That's
thing
right.
I'm seeing a lot of is conditional sales.
Really? I haven't seen a lot of
Yeah.
that. Okay. I'd be
Yeah,
interested.
and that's new because, as you
Yeah.
and I both know, in COVID, you had to race to the property the moment
Okay.
there was even a glimmer that it was going to be sold,
Right,
and you had
right,
to put
right.
your firm offer in, no
Yeah.
inspection, no financing,
Yeah.
nothing. And now I'm finding in a lot of the markets we're looking at, houses are selling conditional on them selling their existing house,
Right.
on getting financing, which is taking a lot longer, on inspection, and it's the selling their house that is challenging because
Yeah.
when you sell conditionally on them selling their house, that challenge in the market
Yeah.
just is that ripple effect.
Yeah, this is probably an area of the industry you're way more steeped in than I am. I'm glad you brought that up because we're so singularly focused on just brokerage, selling brokerages, that sort of thing. I keep up with the market at large, but I always tend to put it through this filter of, if a company wants to sell their brokerage,
Yeah.
how do I apply this? I don't, in fairness, you look more than the minutia because you and Wayne and there's other people that do this. You're also business brokers and development and those sort of things. And we're just not. That's not what we do. So it's interesting you would say that. I had
Yeah.
not heard that, but that is a very interesting piece of information.
And it makes sense, right? Because it
Sure.
speaks to your and my conversation about the difficulty of a purchaser to buy right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it all kind of bleeds into itself. I hate to say it like that, but
It sounds to me, Mark, like you're going to have a very busy next 10 and a half months.
well, my theory is that this year, 2026, whatever the hell we're in, will I've lost track already.
You know what? It's funny you said that. I did a whole memo 2 weeks ago. The entire memo was in 2025. And my CFO sends me a note. He goes, "You're behind the times."
Yeah, yeah.
It's 2020.
Remember the old days where you'd write a check and you'd cross over the next year and you'd have to crap, I gotta scratch it out.
Yes,
But
it is 2026.
yeah, it is 2026. Okay, well, I think 2026 is going to be exceptionally busy for us. I think the market we won't go through litigate that thing. I suspect 2027, although the industry itself may improve, let's say in sales, I suspect that's true. There's still going to be the fluctuations of the industry itself that I think are still a lot of people are just going to decide. I just don't know if I want to keep going. So I suspect 2027 will be busy on the consolidation front, and then by the time we get to 2028, we'll be back to more normal levels, let's call it, of
So
consolidation.
you'll tell your wife that you can go to Europe for a month in 2028.
Nah, I'm gonna probably just pass out for about 3 weeks and sleep.
Gonna put you out by the pool.
Yeah, just set me by the beach. Just set me on the beach and let me cook. I don't care anymore.
Just stay there.
I'm too tired. Wake me when it's 2029.
But what's amazing, Wayne was very complimentary of your meeting that I had a podcast, but I wanted to come. But that referral meeting where there's just so much energy in the room, he said, and to your point, there's so many people looking to either scale up or exit. That there's this momentum that you and I are feeling.
Oh, absolutely. And again, I expect it to go a lot faster and in a lot more robust paces and deals and structures and the whole thing. So it's going to be an interesting couple years to say the least. So,
yeah, I agree with that. I hope that our real estate brokers get your memo about don't try to FSBO.
Oh, really? Yeah, I know. It's like, come on, guys.
For their benefit.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, exactly right. To their benefit. There's just things that you and I know, having done this for so many years now, that we can bring to the table. And
yeah.
Anyway.
Amazing.
All right, my dear.
Always a complete pleasure.
As always, absolutely. So we will talk to you soon for our next one. I guess we can do that next quarter. When are we going to do the next one?
Absolutely. Every 3 months. I'm sure you and I have lots to update each other on.
I'm sure. So, all right. We'll talk to you later.
Sounds great.
Okay. Bye.